Lovely. All right. Well, let's start our lovely webinar. And I just want to welcome everyone to the call and also to everyone that's going to be listening to the call later on. So big warm welcome. I'm delighted to be joined by our wonderful doctor, Jack Pransky, and Gabriela Maldonado-Montano, which I've been practicing for
because it's a mouthful.
So that I didn't actually mess it up. But I just want to introduce our lovely guests. And if you could, in the meantime, put yourselves, not Jack and not Gabriela, but everybody else put themselves on mute, then if we do get any interference at the back there, that it won't come out on the recording. So if I could just say a warm welcome then to our special guests, and I'm going to introduce Jack. Dr. Jack Pransky is a 3 Principles author, trainer and practitioner, a coach of coaches and a counselor of counselors. Jack is the director of the Center for the Inside Out Understanding. And Jack has recently retired, so he's going to tell you about that in a little while. But Jack is a national and international consultant, speaker and author who has worked in the field of prevention and community organizing since 1968. He authored all the books found on this website, and that's the website www.insideoutunderstanding.com. So Jack has been responsible for a number of accomplishments in the field, helping to create the first spirituality of prevention conference in the country with Prevention Unlimited, the first state prevention law in the country, the first state climate improvement programs in Vermont, the Vermont's juvenile court diversion system, 2 parent-child centers and other successful community-based programs. He specializes in prevention from the inside out and specifically in the 3 principles stroke health realization. And in 2004, he won the Vermont Prevention Pioneers Award. And I'd just like to add to that, my favorite all-time book is Someone Should Have Told Us. And it is actually my client's favorite book as well. And the other one, which is one I'm using right now for the youth, which is What is a Thought? A Thought is a Lot. And what is wisdom? And where do you find it? So Jack, welcome. Welcome, Jack.
So I was saying, it's really strange to hear all that because I haven't heard that for a long time. I am really retired and I have become a hermit and I have not paid attention to much of anything that's going on. So, and I'm loving it, absolutely loving it. And to tell you the truth, I really thought that I would miss 3 Principles teaching, which I've done since 1992 probably, and I don't miss it at all. That's the amazing thing about it.
Wow.
I really don't, but you know, you can't help but live from this understanding when it seeps into your bones like it does. So that part's never going to go away, except where I have my blind spots. But other than that, I'm just enjoying life.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, welcome, Jack, and it's so lovely to have you here and to hear how well you're doing in your retirement. So,
yeah, so I've come out of retirement to do this.
You are, and we're so honored and so privileged. And it's
one other thing, I'm feeling very rusty.
Oh, don't worry. You're just amazing, Jack. So just relax and we'll just have this beautiful conversation. So as our other guest is Gabriela Maldonado-Montano. Welcome, Gabby. And Gabriela has dedicated her entire professional life to helping her clients discover the well-being and natural genius that resides at the center of human beings. In over 2 decades of sharing the fundamental laws that create the human experience, she has worked individually and in groups across many settings, including education, alcohol and drug recovery, youth and adult incarceration, community development, burnout prevention, and executive coaching. Seeing her clients blossom regardless of the particular culture, gender, age, or circumstances inspires her to continue her work in English and Spanish across this awesome world. Gabriela had the incredible opportunity of being part of organizations at the forefront of change, such as the Santa Clara County Department of Alcohol and Drug Services and the Center for Sustainable Change in the US. Both organizations strengthened her commitment to serve people in the most severe of circumstances. She is honored to provide services alongside many coaches, trainers, and training organizations nationally and internationally. And Gabby, what are you up to right now? Welcome.
Planting tomatoes. I have been planting a bunch of tomatoes. Enjoying being here at home. You know, I think like I live in California, so like all of the world, I've been at home mostly. But interestingly enough, I actually have geared up in work. All my plans for work for this year were, of course, you know, disbanded. They just disappeared. But out of like maybe a week or two after everything disappeared, all my plans disappeared, then a lot of projects and clients started surfacing. So that's been really nice too. But planting tomatoes has been fantastic, you know, just kind of seeing these delicious beauties come into the kitchen, into my kitchen has been great. The other interesting thing is my household has changed. So my mother-in-law is now living full-time with us. She's 92. And so there's like this adapting period, you know, and I think we're doing really well. Happy to be here with you guys. Lovely to see everyone here.
Oh, it's lovely. Thank you, Gabriela. And talking of change, let's just kick off on one of the sort of starting question, which I love to kind of ask right at the beginning here, is that we're in this pandemic and we're in a global situation of change and uncertainty. And Gabby, let's start with you. What is it that you've learned that helps you to navigate that? You've already said about change. So what is it that helps you to navigate that?
Well, this was really a period of remembering for me. I think the first 2 weeks of being in lockdown and seeing this pandemic happen and, you know, seeing my household change and all of that, I started feeling anxious, to be perfectly honest. I actually woke up a couple of days with my tongue hurting. I know, Denise. It was a very strange thing because I was like, the tip of my tongue is really sore. What I realized I was doing is I was kind of going like this, you know, pushing the tip of my tongue to my teeth. Not being able to sleep at night. Feeling a little like, whoa, what's going on, you know? And so what I realized is that I had a plan for the whole year. I had my birthday plan, I had work plan. I mean, I had my whole entire thing organized. And then all of a sudden there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. Will and I talked about the possibilities of what this would mean for us financially, right? And there are some things that could happen that I would not like, right? And the more I look outward into the circumstances and events and things that could happen or things that I had planned that did not happen, my anxiety started becoming really obvious. And one morning, it occurred to me that the only place I could look towards was inward. Because nothing outside really was as I imagined. And we couldn't, you know, we were changing the dates of being at home. You know, we were going from week to week. Yeah, you can do this. No, you cannot do that, right? I mean, there was just so much in the moment living that there was no way that I could look outwards for certainty and security. And so having this insight of looking inward and really looking for what's not changing in my life, which is this essence and this ability that we have to be creative and innovative, was very helpful, very, very helpful. And once I had that insight, I actually shifted into peace of mind and calmness. And then I realized something. Then I realized right now it's a time where the unknown is on our face, right? It's just like, it's on our face. We don't know when certain things are going to open. They open and they close. We think we're going to do this and then we do that. But in reality, what I realized was that that's happening all the time, even when we think that we know.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
It's just that I forgot. I really forgot, and I see that I was looking for my events and people and circumstances for certainty. And so this was a tremendous gift for me, remembering, oh yes, looking inward is the only place where I'm going to find that certainty and peace of mind and clarity that is going to help me through this time. And interestingly enough, there were a few ideas that I had in case those things that happened that I didn't want to happen would happen. And it's like, well, if that were to happen, this, you know, I could do this and I could do that. So I started noticing that I had a lot of creativity around that. So that was life-saving. And my tongue is now okay. So my tongue is not hurting anymore, which is fantastic. I've had the opportunity to really be in the moment a lot more. And that's been really, really wonderful. So
beautiful. Gabriela, that's so lovely. And what I love, where you, the insight that you had, that we don't live in a world anyway, a perspective of it all mapped out. It has to unfold as we go along. And that I also had that realization that we don't know what the future holds in any moment. And so why now would I be getting really anxious about not knowing about the future when I really don't know anything about the future and any moment, really? I think I do, but I really don't. So I really, that really resonates with me. That's beautiful.
yeah, it was very helpful. It was very, very helpful. And you know, as soon as it surfaced in my mind, I just started feeling like, okay,
yeah,
you know. So there was a certainty, or there was a certainty and a clarity.
Beautiful.
But yeah, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful gift.
Oh, thank you. So Jack, what is it that you feel is, if you like, the number one thing that, you know, you feel very blessed to know during this time that we're going through?
Let me first say that I actually had to leave my house. And I left my house for 2 months. And the reason was that I was in a high-risk situation, and there are kids in this house. They were out, you know, playing with their friends, and there are so somebody else who was in a position of coming in, and so, and I was in a high-risk circumstance. I'm in a high-risk category, and so I thought it would be the best thing to do would be to play it safe and just leave for a while. So I got a place about 5 blocks away, and luckily it was close enough so that my partner and I could take walks all the time. but it was, you know, it was very, very different, you know, to not have my partner with me, to not be able to touch her, you know, to not be able to really get close. And I found myself at first really having problems with that, let's put it that way. And the interesting thing that happened though was I had an insight that, and I don't think that I had this insight as a result of this, but I had an insight that there is no one moment that is more important than any other moment. And I'm sorry if that fan is loud. You know, we waste a lot of moments trying to get to a moment that we really want to have. And when we do that, there's just so many moments that go by us. But who's to say that any one moment is better than any other moment? I mean, that's for us to decide. So as soon as I realized that, I was in a much better place with the whole thing. And then once it got to be 2 months down the line and it looked like my temporary lease was running out anyway, and it looked like, you know, this thing was going to go on and on. It wasn't going to end. Things were not going to get any better for a while, at least in the United States of America. And so I just decided, well, do I really want to spend the quality years that I have left in my life not being with my partner? You know, that doesn't make any sense. So I decided to take the risk and come back in, and so far, knock on wood, you know, I've been lucky.
Oh, and I'm really pleased you're back together. And isn't it lovely that what I hear is that when we're clear, when we settle out of all of the things that the way in which we think it should be, or the way in which we think it ought to be, or the way in which we want it to be, when we start to just settle out of that, then something happens in that clarity and we get what we need in the moment, it seems, or we get what's, if you like, right for the moment, even if we don't feel that that's that's the case.
It's an amazing thing that happens when you see that every moment is equal.
Isn't that beautiful?
Because it doesn't matter what you get into.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have equal opportunity to appreciate every moment.
I love the neutrality of that, Jack, in as much as when we judge our experiences, then our level of clarity can go either way. Like if we have a lot of judgment about it, then that affects our responses, and it affects our reactions and our behaviors towards ourselves and towards others. What I hear in that every moment, and what you said, but every moment is there is a neutrality in that we're just living every moment, and without judgment, there's a freedom, there's a real freedom in there for us to explore. And I love that, what you've just said. That's really special.
It's beautiful for you to bring judgment into it, because it's really true that we allow judgment to make moments less desirable than others. That's just a thought of judgment that does that. Yeah. Otherwise, it would be, as you say, neutral.
Yeah. That's lovely. Well, we titled the webinar, the conversation, we titled it Beyond Judgment Lies a World of Possibility for All. And that kind of leads us really beautifully into that title. And I think I also put it's the answer to the solution to all ills. And Gabriela, if you could kind of kick us off with that, what does that mean to you?
Freedom. It just, like I told you, I had this whole entire year planned. My calendar was full. I don't think, as I was canceling, I was supposed to go on a business trip on a Friday and on a Tuesday or Wednesday, I think it was. I think it was a Wednesday. The organization, the business that I was working for, canceled. And then I was planning this great, wonderful birthday party because I turned 50 and the whole thing, right? And then the hotel closed, right? So there was, at one point, it's like, evidently this is not going to happen. I did not experience a lot of upset. I wasn't upset about the changes. And what that allowed me to do is really get into the moment of, here I'm at home. Oh, I'm going to plant tomatoes. I hired a trainer. I decided to take more walks. So that just really freed it, not experiencing judgment about what's happening allows me to experience freedom and joy. I'm able to enjoy being at home and not being wherever it is I was going to be. It allows me to, even with some more personal changes in my life, because our household changed a little bit with my mother-in-law moving in with us. I think at first that was like bumping heads, this is not the way, this is not the way you wash white clothes. This is not the way you fold sheets. This is not the way this. And I noticed that I was really struggling. Now she's lived with us before, but this time was real difficult. And I had headaches on this whole thing. And one day I realized, what's creating all this struggle and lack of joy is that I'm bumping against my own ideas. This is how you wash white clothes. This is how you cut mangoes. This is how sandwiches are made. And it's just my judgment, right? The moment I was able to see that, I just felt free, like when you take your shoes off at the end of the day. And I was also able to enjoy and appreciate and learn that there's more than one way to wash white clothes, right? And I think the absence of judgment allows us to experience joy with what is in this moment. So I think it's been great. It's been great that I was bumping heads with myself, right? It's like, no, this is the way you do it. No, this is the way you do it. That part was invisible to me when I was doing that, completely invisible. I just thought that I was bumping heads with other people.
Sure.
Right? Because it appears that way. So it's interesting as judgment disappears, what surges is joy and freedom to experience the moment, however it is that it's showing up. And I love that. I love being able to appreciate, to discover, to learn, somebody suggested that I should do this meditation challenge. And I'm like, I don't do meditation challenges. But the person that asked me is a really dear friend of mine. So I said yes. I said yes, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it because of her, right? And then as I was doing this meditation challenge, I could hear my own opinions about what this person was saying. And I could hear and I could feel, I agree, I don't agree. I agree, I don't agree. And every time that I would experience I don't agree, I noticed I would shut down.
Yeah.
Right? And I stopped listening. And then there was this little thing about, what if you listen? What if you just let go of your opinions for a moment? And what I discovered is that when I let go of my opinions, which you could call judgments, I learned. And I learned that I had certain ideas about things that I thought were true. So I love the possibility of experiencing freedom and joy and discovery and learning as we move away from judgment, you know, or holding on really tight to our opinions and thoughts.
That's beautiful. You know, the words that came up for me, Gabriela, is, and I wrote them down, that is attachment and resistance. And I love that we can identify the space from which we're listening, the space we're coming from when we're in an endeavor, that there is this capacity in us to be able to get a sense of where we're coming from, what we've already got on it. and for me, that's just been one of the biggest gifts, because I restrict my learning and my evolution if I'm not just fully present. And if I want to be fully present, then my judgment, my ideas about how things look, my perspective, once I started to see my perspective is a creation of the mind, and it's not out there, Denise. It's so is it true? How real is it? You know, I started to ask all those questions, and it just softened things for me. And initially, it just started to help me to consider that whatever it is I am creating, it is an inside job, and that maybe I ought to consider that, and that things that are happening on the outside, my perspective can just change in a nanosecond. And to see that, for me, especially, you know, right now watching the news, I can just see, oh my goodness, that's terrible. And then I can see my perspective. And I didn't have eyes for my perspective before I came across the principles. I thought that was happening. And now I see that it's happening inside my mind. Because I can see that it's not constant, it's a changing gig.
Two things that have been very helpful personally is experiencing resistance. Like when I experience resistance and stubbornness, it's helpful, because I'm like, oh, okay, I'm bumping against my own ideas. Yeah. And the other thing that searched for me was appreciation. You know, when appreciation, as judgment leaves, what searched for me was appreciation, a deep sense of appreciation. So that's been really helpful to notice that I can tell when I'm getting into my judgments and opinions, because I get, you know, I start digging my heels and I start experiencing struggle. So it's been helpful for me to notice that, because it lets me know, okay, in this moment, you're just not able to see with a greater perspective, you know, so.
So, so Jack, what I think it would be really, really great to hear from you with regards to the same, if you like, the same question, because one of the reasons for putting this together is to help people to hear. And I was really curious, and still I'm very curious as to how it is some people get to wake up to the truth of how experience works and other people don't, and suffering continues. So I really want people to hear the same question, but answered from different people, but pointing in the same direction. So Jack, the question is beyond judgment lies a world of possibility for all. And the question is, what does that mean to you? What does that mean for you?
I had two very interesting thoughts that actually happened before the seminar. Before I heard that it was, you know, that we were going to do this on judgment. First thought I had was, imagine a world without judgment. Like, what would the world be like if there was no judgment? And I want to, I was reflecting on this, and I want to just suggest that there's a difference between discernment and judgment. Discernment is something that is from wisdom. You know, I mean, I didn't look these things up, but this is just the way it occurs to me. We have to be discerning things in the world. And we want our wits about us when we do that. We want our wisdom to speak to us about which way to go and what's good for us and what's not, and all that kind of stuff. That's not judgment. Judgment is from the ego. And it's an evaluation based upon ego about the way we think things should be, the way we think things should be. And if they're not that, then we get bent out of shape somehow. So I was thinking about that, and then the second thought came to me, which is, imagine a three principles community without judgment. That would really be something. Because even though people talk a good game, I've seen a lot of judgment in the community. And I'll give you an example. Way back when, not too long after I first started teaching this, I was invited to Australia to, you know, be part of an ongoing training that was happening. And I was just one part of it. One thing that happened was there was, you know, they would have their sessions, and the people who were in charge of these sessions would then go into a back room, and I walked in there with them, and they would talk about all the different people that were in this long training, and they would be saying, you know, this person isn't ready, you know, he doesn't see the principles deeply enough. And so, you know, there was all this kind of judgment that was happening about where people were at on whatever scale they had in their minds about what was right. And there was one fella in particular who was getting the brunt of this. he wasn't there in the room, but, but he was, people were talking about him in a very judgmental way. And this made me very uncomfortable, but I was really too new at the time to really be able to feel comfortable expressing myself about it. So then I come to hear, after I went back home, I come to hear that Sid Banks had an encounter with this fellow. And he took this guy under his wing. So instead of judging the guy's readiness, he took him under his wing and just gently helped him see what he wasn't seeing. That would be a three principles world without judgment. If that's what we would be able to do for each other. So let me just stop there.
No, that's beautiful, Jack. And one of the things I think worldwide, I don't know in different countries, but one of the things that I've got a real sense of is that people have come together in a really beautiful way. Like it's touched the hearts of people in communities to help each other, to be there for each other, to do shopping, to, it's really helped. There's the word that comes up for me really strongly is the oneness, the fact that we are all human beings, right? And actually, and I always kind of see that we come into the world the same way, we leave the same way, and yet when we're here, we behave as if we're so separate and so individual, and that the way we see it is right or wrong, or we have so much judgment on it. And I think right now, with all of the political unrest around culture and difference, I think now is a wonderful time just to spend a couple of minutes. Gabriela, maybe you could help us to understand how it is this understanding helps people when they're raging about what's going on outside, in terms of things being unjust or seem to be unjust.
Yeah, I had a super personal experience with this with my husband's family. It was like, one of the things that I realized is we suck at listening when something like this happens. I mean, our listening, I don't know if I should have said this. Okay, sorry, Denise. We are really bad at listening. That's not very English of me, is it? We really are terrible listeners when we don't agree with somebody. Terrible, 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 terrible. We go back to listening to our own ideas. We don't give people the opportunity to express really what's in their hearts. And I think it's a marvelous thing, actually. If we want to be helpful, it would be wonderful if we can listen with stillness in our hearts and in our minds. I mean, we don't have to agree with people, right? We don't have to get on their side. But it would help so much to just listen without an opinion, without wanting to change their mind, without judgment. And for me, what I've discovered is that when we are listening with stillness and nothing in our mind and not attachment, you get to discover something that is profound for people, that you might agree or not. You may not agree with it, right? But it certainly helps us to feel or to create or to see this unity. So one of the things that I'm seeing is we are quick to stop listening to people and to start listening to our own ideas. And that really prevents us from discovering the human being in front of you. So I think you know, particularly during this time, and I've reacted actually a couple of times, and I was like, oh, I'm listening to my own thinking again, my own opinions. I had a conversation with Sheila Massan this week, and we were talking about, you know, a political matter, and it was really nice to hear each other. Like, I have an opinion, she has an opinion. Then we left, and I thought, you know, there's something here, right? There's something here for me to discover about this. So I would say that the opportunity to listen to another human being would really help us to discover what's at the core, what's at the center of the reaction.
Mm.
You know?
You
Like,
know, the main thing that I think gets in the way of listening is judgment thoughts. I mean, we would be much more willing and able to listen to another person if we didn't have thoughts of judgment about their ideas compared with our ideas.
and you know, I've had a lot of conversations about this recently, and so I was in conversation with somebody, and I said, "Hold on a second, just give me a moment, because I just got into my opinion again." Right? So I don't know if you know, I have an intention to listen with stillness in my heart, with openness, and then I'll notice that something just pops in my head, and then I get distracted with that, and then I get attached to, no, this is how it should be, right? So I'm just asking people during these conversations to give me a moment to get back to neutrality, because I get pulled very quickly and hard with my own opinion. But just asking for, being aware that that's happening in me has been really helpful, and asking people for permission to, you know, just give me a moment to regain my bearings has been really helpful, because I've been able to hear some things that people are afraid of, or people people don't want to hurt, you know, people don't want to be wrong, people want to be seen. And so it's been incredibly helpful to be aware of how my judgment gets in the way of my listening, and how listening to each other, it's really, I'm going to use the word teeth, a tool, or, you know, whatever you want to use here, but it's just really a powerful mechanism to connect with another human being beyond our opinions and our politics.
You know, if we kind of had one eye on when we go into judgment, if we just noticed whenever we went into judgment,
Yeah.
it would be quite humbling.
Yeah.
And because it happens really often. And when, as soon as we do, because we, as soon as we see it, because we know we don't want to be there, you know, it gives us an opportunity to just come right back to the moment.
You know, Jack, one of the things, and I can kind of to hear the listenings, I've been looking at this a lot as to how it is we get into judgment thinking. And one of the things it seems is that in our conditioning, say, we feel that we need to prove ourselves, that we are not feeling that we're whole and complete, and that somehow that our well-being is on the line if people don't agree with the way we see it, or they don't take it on, or that we're not heard. And I wonder if you can say something around that. So I'm kind of even clawing it back even further to how it is these judgment thinking seems to dominate people's minds, and go back even further to a misunderstanding that no, we are always okay at our core. I wonder if you can talk to that a little bit more.
Well, without judgment thoughts in the way, we are.
Yeah.
In fact, we are anyway, but, you know, with judgment thoughts in the way, that it sure doesn't look like it.
I know.
I have a very interesting story happened here just 2 days ago, actually, apparently in preparation for this. So my partner Nicole's windshield cracked, and she has like full clients all day long. And so I volunteered to take the car to get the windshield fixed. And it was going to be like 2.5 hours of being there with it while they fixed it. So Nicole gave me the address, and I went off and found the address, and the place was not at this address. And I had forgotten my phone. So like, what am I going to do? It's 5 minutes before this appointment is supposed to start, and I am not able to find this place. So I zoom home, and you know, and so I get in and I say, I need to talk to you. And she took that as I was yelling at her or something. And I wasn't, I just needed information like really badly about where I was supposed to go. So she called the place and found out that it was in a completely different place than the address that we thought it was. So I went there and sat there for, it took 3 hours for the thing to be done. At the end of it, I come back, and so we talk. And it was so interesting because in her mind, she got annoyed because in her mind, it's like she takes care of everybody all during the day, and I, being a big boy, can take care of myself. You know, I can figure this stuff out myself. She shouldn't have to do anything about it. Now I'm thinking, you know, in my head was, well, you know, I'm doing a favor for her, and so therefore, when people do you a favor, you gotta get everything lined up, you know, so that people can do the favor easily. Now, interestingly, all that would have just been chalked up to separate realities. People just see it differently, and it's fascinating about how people see it. The reason we can't do that is when there are thoughts of judgment in the way. Like we would do it automatically if those thoughts of judgment were not in the way.
Yeah.
Now, once we kind of got over ourselves and realized, oh, this is why this person sees it this way. That's fascinating. And each of us had very legitimate reasons. And without the judgment, it's just fascinating.
Yeah.
So I actually have no idea whether that answered your question, but
but it was a good story.
Beautiful story. And yeah, let's say it did.
oh, good.
It was
Sounds
perfect for the moment. Perfect for the moment.
You have no judgment about your story and whether it has
No judgment about your story. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up. And if you would like to, I just say again, if you'd like to get hold of Gabriela, then you can get hold of her through her Facebook page. All right. And just to say her surname again, it's Gabriela Maldonado-Montano.
We will put it down wherever it is. So you can have a direct link. You did really well with that, Denise, by the way.
Thank you. And if you would like to get hold of Jack, your website, is that the best place to get hold of you right now?
Yes.
Right.
Although I'm retired.
And I know you're retired, but if someone wants to reach out, and of course, Jack's got many, many books, which are amazing. So if you want to look up Jack's books there, I would highly recommend them. So other than that, it's www.insideoutunderstanding.com. All right. Okay, well, that just leaves me to say thank you so much for everybody. Thank you for listening if you're doing this later on and not live. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have our special guests with us on this new Inspired Living series. So thank you so much. And I just want to, thank you. And have a lovely day, evening, afternoon, wherever you are.